Hello, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're looking at Newcastle United and the run-in and how many points Newcastle are going to need in order to secure that very, very essential top 5 finish. It is feeling a bit nervy at the moment because after the defeat to Villa last week, everything tightened up at the top of the league and it still looks really, really tight at the moment at the top of the league. So you've got Manchester City on 61 points, Forest on 60, Newcastle on 59, Chelsea and Villa both on 57, Chelsea higher with a goal difference, a slightly better goal difference than Villa. However, Manchester City and Aston Villa have both played one more game, so they've only got 4 fixtures left, which means that the state of play looks like this. Manchester City can get to 73 points. Forest at the moment can actually finish on the most points out of those 5 clubs on 75 points. Newcastle can get to 74 points. And Chelsea Chelsea can get to 72 and Villa can only get to 69. So this is the thing. Newcastle United need to focus on beating Chelsea and Aston Villa to 5th place. Now that might sound a little bit negative in the sense that we should be aiming maybe for 3rd or 4th. But actually, what is the prize here? The prize is Newcastle United getting into the Champions League. And in my opinion, that is all that matters. I know that there's prize money for higher places, and if we got 3rd, amazing. If we got 4th, amazing. But if we're just focusing on what it takes to get 5th position, it looks like we need to outscore Chelsea and Aston Villa. And this is why I think it's really in our hands to do that. I really believe that we have an excellent chance at doing this because let's start with Aston Villa. Okay, they only have 4 games left. They can only get to 69 points. But here's the thing, if Aston Villa just drop 2 points, they can only get to 67 points, right? If they were to drop, say, 4 points, they could only get to 65 points. Let's imagine that Villa win 3 of their last 4 and draw one of their other games. They will get to 67 points, right? That means Newcastle United needs to win 3 games out of their last 5 in order to finish on 68 points and be guaranteed to finish above Aston Villa. I think that is really doable because we've got 3 home games. We've got Ipswich, Chelsea and Everton. Now, I'm not saying any of those games are easy. And obviously, a lot of what I'm saying in this video relies on the fact that we need to beat Ipswich on Saturday, which we should do. But this is the Premier League and weird stuff happens. So who knows what the state of play will be come Monday. But as it stands right now, if we were to beat Ipswich on Saturday, then we would have 3 of those 9 points we would need to sort of finish above Villa in this scenario. We then would obviously have 2 home games against Chelsea and Everton, and if we were to win them and Villa were to do anything but win all 4 of their games, we would guarantee to finish above Aston Villa. So considering we lost to Villa last week, that's not a bad situation to be in. Manchester City beating Aston Villa the other night on Tuesday actually was probably the best result that could have happened for Newcastle based on Newcastle wanting to qualify for the Champions League, because it means that City have kind of pulled away and Villa have dropped back a little bit, and actually that it's softened the blow of that defeat at Villa Park in a sense to us. Now let's focus on Chelsea. Chelsea currently 57 points as well, same as Villa, but they've got an extra game. So Chelsea's maximum points total that they've got is 72 points, which is only 2 less than what Newcastle can achieve. So obviously there's a bit more of a race with Chelsea, if we're honest. We have to play Chelsea, right? So if Newcastle beat Chelsea, that means that Chelsea's maximum total they could get to is 69 points. So let's imagine that happens. Newcastle beat Chelsea at home. Then Chelsea still have to play Liverpool. They still have to play Forest. So if they were to just draw one of those games, right? So Newcastle beat them at St James's, and then Chelsea draw one other game out of their other 4 games, the maximum points Chelsea could get to is 67. Which again means if Newcastle can just win 3 games, including the one against Chelsea, the likelihood is Newcastle are going to finish in the top 5. Right? So it looks very worrying at the moment. Like, it looks like, how are Newcastle going to get it? We were 3rd last week. We had a horrendous defeat to Villa, and everything's closed up, and it's kind of like, what are the chances of Newcastle getting in the top 5? Well, personally, I think the chances of us getting in the top 5 are actually still pretty good. I'd still back us from this position right now. But of course, it comes down to can we actually get the results? Can we go out against Ipswich and beat them? Can we then focus on Brighton and try and go to a ground that we don't win at very often and actually get the win? I actually think we can. I believe in this squad. I believe in this team. And then can we beat Chelsea? Like, if we win the next 3 games, we're pretty much there. Like, we'll be pretty much there, I think, if we do that. The TV companies will want an exciting run-in that hangs on to the last day of the season. I am absolutely hoping and praying that we make it really boring and that the top 5 is sorted by that time. And in this scenario, really, you know, Forest could be our allies here a bit, because they still have to play Chelsea as well. And, you know, it might just be that Man City kind of consolidate that third position. So really, it's between us and Forest for 4th and 5th. That's what I hope. Obviously, there's a danger that we lose to Ipswich and lose to Brighton. Then we're in a totally different scenario, and it becomes much harder. But from here, if we can get the win against Ipswich, that puts us 5 points clear of Villa again. 5 points clear of Chelsea, although, of course, Chelsea also play at the weekend. So we will see. We will see what happens, and it's very exciting. The other good thing is that Eddie Howe is back on the training ground. He's been back this week, so hopefully that is going to give us that little extra boost, that little extra momentum kick as we head into the very final stages of the season. 5 games left. Very, very exciting. So that's how I feel about it. I've had a bit. I was down after the Villa game. I've had a bit of a think about it. I am well up for the Ipswich game at the weekend, and I just think it is very much in Newcastle's hands, and we've got everything to play for, and we can absolutely finish in that top 5. And if we finish 5th, we should all be absolutely over the moon with that, because what a season that will be. Champions League football and a trophy. That's all we have to. That's what we've got to go for.